So today we got one of our longtime customers here, and we're going to do a half-inch taper. A lot of people refer to it as a number 4. I'm going to use my metal detachable blade. I prefer my metal detachable blade to a plastic attachment. It goes through the hair a lot easier, and we're going to layer the top, and then we're going to show you some styling techniques. And then when we're done with that, we're going to give them a nice beard trim, and then we're going to outline it with a straight razor, and we're going to give them a nice relaxing shave. So we're going to just dampen the hair down just a little bit so we can control it better and it doesn't fly all over when we cut it. And I like to start on the top and work my way down. That way I don't create a heavy line of demarcation here around the parietal area or the round of the head area. I'm just going to grab my shear. I'm going to pick the hair up with my fingers. I'm going to keep my fingers parallel to the floor. I'm going to over direct it back slightly to where the recession is on both sides. Very important you do that. If you don't over direct the hair back to the recession, which you're going to wind up with a hole on each side. So we want to make his hair look as full as possible with the cut, and then we have a few more tricks we're going to show you with the style to make it look even fuller. And then as the head rounds down in the back, I want to make sure that I keep the hair at this angle here so it's longer in the front and longer in the back. I don't want to round it down in the back or start pulling it down back this way because we're going to wind up too short in the back and it's going to stand up. So we want that hair nice and even all the way across. And then we're going to take a section on the right and a section on the left. And then we just get a nice rhythm going. The comb goes in at a 45-degree angle. We rotate the comb. That creates the tension on the hair. Our fingers slip underneath, and we're using a traveling guide, and I can always see my guide. I can see my center guide, and I can see my underneath guide. So I call this technique scissor over fingers, pretty simple, and we're going to use a traveling guide. If the hair was shorter, I would use a scissor over comb technique. And now the other thing I want to do, I'm going to come to the other side, and there's a lot more hair on the left side. I want to make sure the hair is completely even across the top. If the hair is not layered properly, I don't want it to look like a comb over. And then one more section just to make sure. I want to comb all the hair down across, and then we're going to pick it up. And what we're going to find there is there's quite a bit of hair there. I still have my center guide. So this is going to keep it completely parallel to the floor. And it's going to be even all the way across the top. And this is going to give the hair a little bit more lift. His hair is very straight and fine, so we need to use all these tricks to get the hair to look, we want the hair to look nice and full. And then lastly, what I don't like to do when I'm cutting the top is I don't like to comb the hair straight down and cut straight across, because then what should be the longest part of the haircut becomes the shortest part of the haircut. So what I'll do is I'll pick it up and I'll pull it to the center, keeping in mind because of the recession on both sides, I'm going to over direct it the same way. Now right there, those long pieces, that's all the front length. So I'm going to cut it by lifting it up instead of across the forehead, so it still leaves it the longest part of the haircut. And I'll show you what I mean here. So now we're going to check and see if we brought that front length up where we wanted it. So you can see now it's right there, where before it was down to the middle of the nose. Now there's just those few long pieces in the front, those few dead ends, which are right there. I'm going to grab those, and just like that, 60 to 90 seconds, the top is done. Nice and easy. So now we have a couple choices. We can go right in with the clipper on the side, which is one way, but we're going to lose sight of that. We're going to lose sight of the cutting blade if we do that. So just for example, to show you what I mean, if we took a 1/2 inch attachment and went right up, you can't see the cutting teeth. I like to see the cutting teeth so I can smoothly blend from the sides to the top. If I lose sight of the blade, I'm going to leave a heavy weight line. So I want to avoid the blending step. That's the most difficult part of the haircut. So if we can cut it out at least, 90%, then it makes our life a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is that same scissor over finger technique, using the top length as my guide. And I'm going to come around to both sides. I'm going to do the right side first here, and then we'll come back over to the left side. And then as I get to the front, same thing. That traveling guide becomes stationary. So what I mean is, we're traveling, I stop, and then I pull from the front to that guide, and then we can see the guide underneath, and then we just clean up that little bit. And then we brush it back. And now when we go in with our attachment, our 1/2 inch attachment, it's going to be a lot easier. We can see our line of demarcation right there. And we're going to come around on the left side and do the same thing. And pick it up. Actually, on this side, it's a little harder to pick up. I'm having a little trouble, so all I'll do is I'll switch to a scissor over comb technique. Hold the comb like this, thumb on the bottom, pointer finger on top, first crease of the middle finger, and it just rotates in your hand. Wrist doesn't move at all. And that way it lifts the hair, and you cut the hair on the base of the comb. So what I'm doing is I'm forming a V with the comb and the scissor, and I just cut it right on the base of the comb instead of holding the scissor like this and being in danger of cutting up in there what I don't want. And don't stop the scissor. If you stop the scissor, you're going to create a weight line. We don't want to create a weight line. All right, so there we have, now we have our guide created, and we're ready to go in with, we're just about ready to go in with a clipper. And then just one quick point, when you look at his neck and you see all the hair on his neck, that can be kind of intimidating, and you wonder, what am I going to do with that? How am I going to taper it out? Am I going to square it off? Am I going to fade it out? I don't even worry about it. I work from my longer blades to my shorter blades, and I promise you by the time we're going to get there, it's going to look a lot less intimidating, and it's going to be almost done by the time we go in with our trimmers. So I just do work on one step at a time. That's all I focus on, and then we go from there. I always like to make sure my customer is cleaned off. So I'm going to use a detachable blade clipper, and I'm going to use a metal blade, and I'm going to put a drop of oil on each of the running blades. And I do this before each use. Turn the clipper on, and then snap the blade shut. And then we're going to start on the side. And the slower you work, the faster you're going to be done. So I get a lot of times people ask me, how do I increase my speed? How do I get faster? You're actually going to finish a haircut faster by working slower because you cut it on the first try. You don't have to keep rubbing over the same spot. Now if you notice, I'm starting to angle the clipper using a C motion slightly below or at the temple area. I want to leave myself some room to blend there. If I go too high, then I'm not going to have room to blend. The general rule is when you comb the hair back, you never want the blend to be higher than that front area where we're combing the hair back. So with metal blades, I always hold the ear down and protect it with my finger, because if a metal blade touches the back of the ear, it's going to cut the ear. So just keep that in mind if you're not used to using metal blades. So you can see very slowly, when I arc that blade out, we're going to have very little blending to do. So we have a little bit of a weight line, but we don't have a shelf or like a mushroom line. So in the metal blade numbering series, this is called a 3 3/4 blade, and cuts the hair to a 1/2 inch, and it's universal across all brands.